Welcome to the Holistic Kid Show. My name is Zane.
My name is Dila.
And I'm Imad.
We're the Holistic Kids here to educate us kids from the inside out. About 70% of the foods we consume are ultra-processed foods. We kids are becoming addicted to these foods, and this isn't just here to stay. CNN reported that the same 12% of the nearly 73 million children and adolescents in the United States today struggle with a food addiction. Most media and even doctors shame the consumer, saying we should have self-control. But this is why we started this podcast 4 years ago, to educate and empower us kids, because when you crave these foods, it was created and designed to be addicted.
Most media and even doctors shame the consumer.
So, how?
That's why today we are incredibly excited and incredibly honored to have our hero, Miss Vani Hari, aka the Food Babe, here with us today. She is Big Food's worst nightmare, as she has dedicated her entire life to educating all of us about what we are actually eating. Vani Hari is a revolutionary food activist, a New York Times bestselling author, and the founder of Truvani, which we love. She also blogs as Food Blade to spread awareness about what's actually happening and what big food companies are hiding from us. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I've been wanting to go on the show for so long. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, it's our pleasure.
It really is our pleasure. So we firsthand witnessed the power and crowd you brought to Michigan in front of the Kellogg's headquarters, as we were rallying right along behind you, which was amazing. We want to know, how did it start? We would love to know your story. Why should we be concerned about the food industry? Why is it important?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to thank you so much for being there in Michigan, because I tell you, having kids like you behind me in this fight is really going to make the food industry change faster than ever, because this is about you guys. This is about safeguarding the food that's you're being targeted with. And so I just want to say thank you. It really meant a lot to me to see your faces there. And it also, I know, sent a message to Americans everywhere that there are people fighting for their food and fighting for safe food. And we're sick of American companies serving safer, better versions of their same product to other countries while they're selling us the more toxic version. So thank you. I grew up as a child that was always eating processed foods, whether it was candy or fast food or the thing that you would put in the microwave for dinner time. I was always eating processed food. And my parents came here from India. And when they did, they really wanted to try to fit in. And so they just adopted this American food lifestyle and allowed me and my brother to just eat whatever was readily available at the grocery store or through fast food. And they didn't really put a lot of emphasis on nutrition, and they didn't really have resources to learn about what really had happened to the American food supply. And so they were very trusting of these products. And because they had grown up in a situation where they were surrounded by a lot of poverty, having access to cheaper food readily available was a totally different type of environment. And so it allowed them to just consume these foods very, innocently, and not look behind what was really happening. And so as a result, I was in and out of doctors' offices for most of my life. I was always going to the doctor for either eczema or asthma, or I had some problem with my body where I'd have to go on antibiotics or prednisone, some kind of, steroid. And I never felt well as a child. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I was getting my appendix taken out that I realized that I need to take my health seriously. And when I started to go to the library and check out big books on nutrition, I figured out the truth about the food industry, and I figured out the truth about what I'd been eating. And I couldn't shut up about it. I wanted to tell everyone the truth about what I was eating, how I felt so duped by companies like Subway that had this slogan, "Eat fresh." I was eating a Subway sandwich, several times a week, thinking I was eating fresh. And then I found out there's close to 50 ingredients in the bread alone. And this wasn't fresh. This was processed food that I was eating. And when I started to make changes to my diet, going from fake processed foods to real food, fruits and vegetables, things that come from nature, my whole body changed. I went off 9 prescription drugs, and I started to live a life that I never thought was possible and start to really become successful in my life, because I was excelling at my job. I was excelling at being a blogger, at Food Babe, and it was such an exciting time. And I started Food Babe because I wanted to share what I was learning with my friends and my family. And never in my wildest dreams did I think that it was going to reach worldwide attention or get a worldwide audience. I had no idea that that would even be possible. It was really there to just share what I was learning with the people that I loved and I was closest to, that were surrounding me. And it thankfully grew so quickly to the point where I eventually quit my job as a banking consultant and decided to take on the food industry full time. And one of the first investigations I did after I quit my job was this comparison of American products towards the same products that they sell in other countries, but they having completely different ingredient lists that were less toxic, less additives, less ingredients, and better for you ingredients. So one of the first products I looked at was Quaker strawberry oatmeal. And here in the United States, they were using apple pieces dyed with red 40, an artificial dye made from petroleum and coal tar. And in the UK, they had strawberry oatmeal, Quaker strawberry oatmeal with real strawberries. And seeing this side-by-side comparison of the ingredients was something that angered me. I was mad because I was saying, wait a minute, these are American companies. Why aren't they selling us the safer ingredients here as they do in other countries? And it inspired me to take on Kraft, one of the largest food companies in America, to ask them to remove artificial food dyes from their mac and cheese. Here in the United States, they were using Yellow 5 and Yellow 6, both artificial food dyes that are made from petroleum and coal tar. And I mean, I don't know, you don't need to be a rocket scientist or even an adult for that matter to know that you shouldn't be consuming petroleum and coal tar, right? And
Yeah.
If you don't know what it means, just
and you probably want to be consuming instead what they were using in the UK, which was paprika spice made from ground up red peppers, or beta carotene, a color from carrots. So this was something that was really maddening to me. And I decided to start a petition. It went viral. It was very exciting. And so exciting that Kraft really was not really wanting to change. They kept telling me that we have to agree to disagree, even when I went to their headquarters. And you saw what happened at Kellogg's, just this year, but back, almost 10 years ago or over 10 years ago now, when I went to Kraft headquarters to deliver the petitions to Kraft headquarters, I was only there with like a few people, right? And this just goes to show you this was not a movement like it is today. Our movement today is so much bigger and so much stronger. And we have so much more awareness about what's happening to the American food supply and what's been done to our ultra processed foods that make us unhealthy. And so eventually Kraft had to remove artificial food dyes by the end of that year, because parents who were buying artificial or buying Kraft decided not to buy them anymore. So it was just that decision, a parent deciding not to buy that product anymore, that convinced a food company to finally change their product and make it safer like they serve in other countries. And so my message to all the kids watching this show and to all the parents watching this show with their kids is stop buying the products with artificial food dyes, and those companies will have to change.
Are you guys so empowering?
Very empowering.
That's why you're our role model for
Yeah.
change, because you don't have to be so very powerful or have a lot of power to create that change. You like anyone can create change. Anyone can be that ripple effect. So that's why even I know in our book, right, Sam, we mentioned Kellogg's and Kraft and how tobacco industry actually, like R.J. Reynolds, they were partnered or they bought them out, and they were using the same tactics as tobacco companies to actually hook people in. And that's why, like big food companies like Kellogg's and Kraft have been using food science. They've been making trillions from the manipulation of food science and food scientists, and ultimately us. So we are so like amazing. You are amazing for actually tackling this issue.
There is a crazy court case that just got announced this week from a boy who's 16 years old who is suing every single major food company, all 11 of them, for giving him diabetes and non-alcoholic liver disease. And he talks about how the tobacco companies bought up these food companies several years ago and employed the same science that they used to hook people to cigarettes to food, to make them hyper palatable, to make them more addictive so that your brain remembers the flavor, remembers the taste, and makes you eat more of that product than you should. And even everything from the texture of the product, how it goes down into your mouth, how you digest the product, how fast you digest the product. If they can make the product help you, if they can make the product digest faster in your body, you'll eat more of that product and they'll make more money. And so they figured this out. And in this lawsuit, he talks about this in there. And the lawyers are presenting a case that show that basically little kids, such as yourselves, don't have significant warning on ultra-processed foods to warn them that they are being designed to be highly addictive and designed to make you eat more of that product than you should. And unfortunately for little children and for teenagers especially, this has become a big issue because teens between the ages of 12 and 18, 38% of them are now having pre-diabetes. And this used to be a number that was 0. So we are in a crisis right now. We have to do something for our youth. We have to do something for our children. And it starts with first, increasing education about what's in our food, but also holding these food companies accountable.
So
for our viewers that are listening, because a lot of people, they're just learning about this. Because I know I was talking to some like my classmates and friends, and I was like, oh, these big companies, look what they're doing. It's like, really? I thought, well, don't they care about our health? And I was like, well, not really. To them, it's just money. So why should we be concerned about food industries? And why should normal people be concerned about what the food industry is doing, and why is it important?
Yeah, so the way our economic system works is food companies are rewarded when they make more money, of course. And so they've put profits over people. And that's traditionally how they've been grown in this country. Thankfully, there are tons of new companies coming about that are making better for you products, that are making more real food accessible to everyone. And I think the best way to look at a product and to figure out whether it's something that you should consume is a methodology I use in my own brand. In Truvani, I sell these bars that we created, and I wanted to use ingredients that you would find in your own kitchen. And so if the product has ingredients that you would find in your own kitchen, like salt and olive oil and a fruit or a vegetable, or nuts or seeds or maple syrup, for example, or honey, all of those ingredients, that would be something you'd want to probably pick up at the grocery store shelf.
Yeah.
mhm.
But if you start seeing chemical names on the label, and again, this is something not all kids are able to read until they're 7, 8, 9 years old. So this is something that for little small children, this is an issue because, again, there are so many additives that don't belong in foods. And so parents really need to take a hold of their kids' products and read the ingredient labels and really understand what's in them. We also have a problem with the fact that the U.S. food government has allowed over 10,000 chemicals in our food supply here in the United States, whereas other countries like Europe only allow 400. So we have many more chemicals allowed in our food that are man-made in a factory, in a laboratory. You know, they're mixing different concoctions together, trying to make food act a certain way or last longer on the shelf, so that if a food lasts longer on the shelf, the food company actually makes more money because it doesn't go bad as fast. And so it can stay on the shelf longer. They don't have to throw it away. It can just be there. And so this is something that you have to look at, is the ingredients of every single product. And you have to pick products that, again, you would find in your own kitchen.
So basically, kids, the first step they need to do to improve their life is to just read ingredients.
Yes. Yeah. And it's one of the first things that I've taught my daughter. You know, she's just learning to read. She can read pretty well now, but I always have her read ingredient labels. I said, you know, if she picks up a product at the grocery store shelf and wants to put it in the cart, I'm like, Harley, tell me the ingredients, you know. And it's one of the most impactful things you can teach your children, but also that you can learn yourself. If you're a kid watching the show, pick up products and start reading the ingredient label. And if you can't read the ingredient, and if it's like multi-syllable and too long for you to even understand, there's a good chance that is a man-made chemical that you don't want to put in your body.
Yeah. How do the food industries differ from other countries? And why is that?
Yeah, because I remember the Fruit Loops, right, Maud?
Yeah, it was like the Fruit Loop package from Canada was way more cleaner than the Fruit Loops package in America.
It's because our government bodies here in the United States are not requiring the FDA to review the safety data behind these chemicals. Just this week, in a Senate hearing in Washington, the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, they admitted that they haven't reviewed the safety of Red 40 in over 10 years. So they're not reviewing whether these additives are safe or not. And so food companies will use additives like Red 40 in their products because it's cheaper to use a petroleum coal tar based ingredient than real food. Because if they have to use, let's say they have to use beets in order to color their product, well, someone's got to grow those beets. Someone's got to pick up those beets. Someone's got to, make it into a dye. And then that dye is going to be a little bit more expensive than the dye that they made from a petroleum byproduct that is just waste product, basically, from the petroleum industry. And they're just trying to get rid of and sell real cheap. So that's the piece that's most important. But then also beets will break down over time because it's a real food. And so petroleum will just last on the shelf forever. And so there's that reason too, where their product can go bad faster with natural dyes. So there's a lot of complicated things that happen behind the scenes to engineer these processed foods. But the main point that everyone needs to understand is Fruit Loops, Kellogg's, is already making the safer version of their product with these fruit juices for virtually every other country, for Canada, for Australia, for India, for all of Europe, but selling us the petroleum coal tar version here. That's got to stop. And the best thing you can do is to stop eating artificial dyes when you see our artificial dye on a label, but also stop buying Kellogg's, stop buying Fruit Loops, stop buying Apple Jacks, stop buying anything with the Kellogg logo. And that will send a signal to the marketplace that they need to change in order to be viable in this new awareness that we have in America.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, these food companies, they've changed the food so much. They've bioengineered the food so much. They've turned the food. They've turned their products from being a want to a need. Literally, like right in our classes, our classmates, they need to have that candy. They need to have that Doritos. Right? Don't kids go crazy then in your class?
Yeah.
Like the teachers and me and Zam school, they fry the students with like candy, and then now they make the students like try so hard just for the candy. They're like, give me the candy. Like Jolly Ranchers, they just give it out.
It really does push the kids. The kids really do want that, which is so sad because they don't know what it does to their body.
And I think
it's not.
I think this is so important that you guys are talking about this, because we have to educate our teachers. We have to educate them about the harms of these artificial food dyes and what they do to children's brains. And I know the teachers don't want their kids hyperactive. They're really hard to control if they're hyperactive, right? And so we have to educate our teachers. We need to educate our schools. Again, I think schools should make it mandatory that no artificial food dyes enter the building. What people do outside of school, fine. But, I think at school with children, I think that's the most important thing. And it's one of the things that I've really thought about doing is trying to figure out if there's a platform that we can create that allows like schools to become certified artificial free, and that they can just do that on their own. They don't need to wait until the state does it or government does it. Schools everywhere, if you are a school administrator or work on a school board, or your parents are part of the PTA or anything that, are working with, they can just literally send a letter. Like, what would it take to get this school to commit to not, selling or, serving artificial food dyes. And I think if the teachers make the commitment along with the school, that would really help parents amazingly. And I think one of the reasons why this probably hasn't occurred is you have to think about all of the low income kids that come from families that may not have the resources to learn this or don't know the truth about what's happening. And unfortunately, the cheapest products that are available through like the SNAP program do have artificial food dyes. And so we have to change the system from that level, but we also need to change it from the government level. And we need to make it so that under the SNAP assistance program for food, we provide more healthful options and don't make artificial food dyes available under that.
So what are the first steps to getting a big food company out of the area? Or at least not out, but just make them change?
Yeah, the first step is consumer behavior. So you have to, number one, tell people the truth about their product. So share that information on social media, call your friends, write them letters. You can make a sign and put it up in your neighborhood. There are so many different ways to inform people about the truth about what's happened to the food supply. And then you have to get your mom and your dad to make sure they don't buy those products anymore. And that will make the biggest change.
Wow, you are so inspiring.
So inspiring.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so nice.
It was our pleasure.
It's our pleasure. So where can we learn more about you and your amazing work?
Well, I would love to have everyone come over to foodbabe.com, sign up for my newsletter if you have an email address, and you can have your parents follow along on social media, The Food Babe. And that's where you can learn. You can also visit my YouTube channel.
So definitely go check that out.
Yeah, check that out. That's probably gonna be amazing. And thank you so much, Miss Vani. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for caring about our future. We are so thankful to have you on our side, fighting big corporations that only care about money. So what is one thing kids can do today
to create that change?
Yeah, like right now. Like they're gonna go here right now.
Today? Like one thing that can change today. Like what is your advice to kids?
if you find out a product has artificial food dyes, stop eating it. Yeah.
Very simple.
That's what we did actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then we found like we found alternatives with that food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many good alternatives out there. My
Mhm.
kids, I tell you, they don't suffer from this lifestyle. They have so much fun. So
Mhm.
I know that people always think, "Oh, you must be so like depressed having to eat only carrots and broccoli." We're like, that's not all we can eat.
that's right. There's so much
So-
fun food available now. So
Uh-huh.
And we actually
Our-
feel better. We
Yeah.
feel good. We have more energy, right? Our immune system isn't dying.
Mhm.
We can actually have fun and truly be ourselves.
totally. And I
So
can
this
tell
was
from your
yeah.
Yeah.
from meeting you. Yeah.
So this was such a powerful episode. Everyone needs to check Miss Vani's book today. We love her cookbook. The chia puddings is our favorite food. We can make them ourselves. So yummy. And now let's recap Miss Vani's key points. Stop buying products with artificial food dyes because we need to change. Get educated. Tobacco companies are using the same science they use to get people hooked to fake food. This is becoming a huge issue. A lot of kids today have pre-diabetes. We have a crisis. We have to do something for us and our future.
Educate yourself about what is in your food. These companies put profit over people. There are companies that are making real food accessible to everybody, and it's so important to support them. The best way to start is to read the labels and find products that actually use real ingredients. Pick products that you can find in your own kitchen. If you can't read it or understand it, and it seems like it was made in a lab, it probably is, and it's probably man-made. So remember to put it back.
Show this podcast to everyone. Follow Miss Vani Hari today. Get her book, follow her social media, and get you and your family and teachers need to educate today. Us kids have more power than you think. Parents buy what we want. So let's stop eating and buying fake food today. Our future depends on it.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zain Sari.
I'm Abdullah.
And I'm Ima.
Follow my family and I on social media, Holistic Mom D, and look out for my mom's book that came out and our book, The Teen Health Revolution, that is releasing September 2025, called The Teen Health Revolution, and our book, Food Label Detectives, that just came out a couple months ago. Kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast on iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to work together to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.